Looking for the freshest wild salmon in Portland? Meet Kenai Redfish Company. They're a family-owned business based in Northeast Portland, and every summer, they head up to Alaska's Cook Inlet to sustainably fish for wild salmon. At this very moment, they're doing what they do best, reeling in wild salmon that could be headed straight to your freezer. Kenai Red works just like a CSA, but for wild Alaskan fish. Use CityCast15 for $15 off your salmon share today at KenaiRed.com. That's KENAI Red.com. Fish that's caught for you, real fish from real people. Biketown makes it easy to explore the city on an e-bike or a scooter. All you have to do is find the nearest available bike or scooter using the Biketown or Lyft app, scan the QR code on your set of wheels, and you're on your way. One beautiful waterfront ride is a 5-mile loop from the Steel Bridge to the Tillicum Crossing, the largest car-free bridge in the world. New riders can use CityCast25 for a free unlock. For more info, go to biketownpdx.com. Today on CityCast Portland, we're talking about the aftermath of House Bill 2025's failure to pass. Written to be one of the largest and most comprehensive transportation bills in nearly a decade, a lot was at stake, so we'll be breaking down some key components. We're also digging into our mailbag and hearing from you, our listeners. Joining me on our midweek roundup is our very own executive producer, John Notarianni. It's Wednesday, July 9th. I'm Claudia Meza, and this is what Portland's talking about. Welcome, everyone, to our midweek roundup. John, thanks for joining me this morning.
Good morning, Claudia. How's it going?
Not bad. But what we're about to talk about, it might change things.
Yeah.
So today we're going to be looking into Oregon Legislature's failure to pass House Bill 2025, one of the largest comprehensive transportation funding packages in almost a decade. And although the bill included some new and increased taxes and fees, which Oregonians are very wary of, it had a lot of support. And it was also one of the main bills that Representative Julie Fahey, who's Speaker of the House, talked about building and passing when she was on the show right before the session started. Do you remember that, John?
Mm-hmm. Totally, yeah.
So explain, why did it fail? What happened?
My head is still sort of spinning on this one because I really thought that this was going to be the sort of thing that was a no-brainer, that it was definitely going to happen, right? Mm-hmm. I didn't think that there was going to be any question about whether or not it was going to go through, but...
No, everyone thought it was going to be a slam dunk.
Yeah. But, I mean, like you said, it was expensive. There was a lot of concern about the costs of it. And even though the Democrats had a supermajority in the legislature, they couldn't quite get enough votes to make this happen. In the final few weeks of the session, there was all this last-minute wrangling to try and figure out a way to pass it. They did a reworking where they cut down the price tag a bit. And then at the very end, they did a huge revision of it where they basically cut out funding to cities and counties and were we're just going to fund ODOT at a state level, which of course people were pissed off about. We got to this point where all of a sudden the legislature ends 2 days early and this bill hasn't passed. Nobody had accounted that this was something that could even happen. So now everybody's well, what the fuck do we do?
Yeah.
Because this creates a $300 million hole in funding for ODOT. And a lot of that money filters down to local municipalities as well. Well, we are starting to find out what some of the consequences of this bill not passing are going to be. But before I go into that, Claudia, what's your take on this this legislative fuck up, I guess?
Yeah, God, it's so hard to say when people are doing these jobs to be a fuck up, because I have no idea how hard it is to pass a bill. Yeah. It's so easy for us to be here and be they fucked it all up. I'm not saying that that's what you're saying. So, I can't imagine how hard, because I know it was a lot of Democratic representatives and people that were essentially saying, hey, my constituents do not want any new fees. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to get elected again if I pass this. I think it hit where they were just I don't know if you've ever done this, John, but I do this all the time where I plan a really big house renovation project and then it comes closer and I was I don't have $20,000. What the fuck was I thinking? No.
Yeah.
You know? And I feel like that maybe the sticker price, they had a come to Jesus moment with it. And they're like, oh no, we can't do this.
Yeah.
But now I'm more just like, okay, who's losing their jobs? I know the city was planning so many things with their funds. So what's the fallout?
Yeah, well, just this week, we're really starting to get a sense of what that fallout is. This is by a bunch of great reporting from the folks over at OPB. Dirk Vanderhart, Alex Zielinski, and Bryce Doyle have really been on this. So let me go through it sort of like level by level. At a state level with ODOT, 483 ODOT workers just got layoff notices. That happened on Monday. That's about 10% of the workforce. These layoffs are taking place at the end of July. And they're saying that there could be even more layoffs next year without additional funding. And that means that there's this huge list of all this stuff that just is going to be cut and scaled back at a state level. Stuff like pothole repairs, road striping, litter pickup, snow plowing. I remember last year, Claudia, before this legislative session had even begun, we were saying, like, they're going to stop plowing snow? That's ridiculous. There's no way that that's going to happen. Well, in this moment, it looks like that might actually happen. I mean, not entirely, but like it's going to be scaled back. And Portland is taking a big hit, too. The city had expected about $11 million from this bill, you know, and we just went through a budget process and that money was included in our budget for the next year. So now everyone's like, oh, shit, what do we do? Well, a new plan that was released Monday, about 50 Portland transportation employees are probably going to be laid off next week. Those notices are set to go out on July 14th. The layoffs won't take effect for several months, but still, a number of PBOT employees are probably going to be laid off. It's not clear like what jobs are on the chopping block, but it also means that a lot of services and projects that the city has been planning as well just aren't going to happen.
My streetlights.
Yeah. 300 streetlights unrepaired, street paving, sidewalk repair, pedestrian safety projects. And on top of that, like there's this tumble down effect because ODOT itself at a state level actually does a lot of work in the city, you know, litter pickup along ODOT roads, like, you know, homeless camp cleanups. Since ODOT manages some of our city roads, those things are not going to happen either with this funding cut, let alone the cuts to like the county government. Multnomah County's looking at a $63 million funding gap because of this. And TriMet is looking at a big gap too. TriMet saying it could threaten 25% of bus service and 10% of rail service by 2032. So like there's 78 bus lines in the city, like back of the napkin math, that could mean that like 20 bus lines are in peril in the city because this funding didn't happen.
Yeah. And I also looked to see about the larger projects, which was the Abernathy Bridge, which already started. That's the Interstate 205 bridge that crosses the Willamette River, and ODOT has been seismically retrofitting it for a while now.
Which, thumbs up. We like that.
we need that, right? But there's also the big project, John, that like has been going back and forth if it's going to happen, how it's going to happen. But the widening of Interstate 5 through Portland's Rose Quarter, which was scheduled to start this summer, the project was also supposed to build a lid over the freeway, which was a key component for the Albina Vision Trust Rose Quarter development. That's the project that was supposed to like kind of like put back together this historically Black area of the city that was ironically decimated by the construction of the I-5. This was supposed to be just like we're healing, you know, look at this. The I-5 is actually providing something that is useful to the community. But both of those big projects, and I'm talking about the widening of the Interstate 5 and the bridge, those were funded by that big transportation bill that I was talking about earlier back in 2017. And they're out of money. So HB 2025 was going to provide for their funding shortfalls. And the redevelopment of the Rose Quarter is looking more tenuous because a lot of their funding was coming from federal grants. And with the new Republican-led budget bill, cuts are expected. So salt, meat, wound.
Oh my gosh.
I was also looking to see like, well, how dead is it? Like, how dead is this bill? you know? And things are looking bad. I'm not gonna lie. There's just so much uncertainty and newness to the issue at hand that all the levels of government that you were talking about, John, you know, like the city, the county, the state, they're still scrambling, trying to find ways to plug all the like budget leaks, you know? So some good news first. That Albina Trust Rose Quarter project I was telling you about, that first phase, which breaks ground next month, by the way, fully funded. So the next phase set for 2027, which is the actual build out portion of the freeway lid, or the highway cover, that's the part that's relying on federal grant money. So we'll see. Governor Tina Kotek also hinted very, very strongly over the weekend that she was willing to call lawmakers in for a special session to find at least enough money to avoid all of the layoffs at ODOT. And this was the quote: "I don't care how tired you are. I don't care what your vacation plans are. We're going to solve this. You're going to be spending a lot more time with me. We need to get this figured out." And I'm just like, wow, mean teacher Kotek.
Kotek very much has that like stern but like responsible principal vibe sometimes.
Totally.
Of just like,
Yeah.
I don't care what you think you're doing. We're going to get back and we're going to figure this out.
So we'll see. We'll see.
And that's not unprecedented. I mean, we did do that last year. We called a special session to fund wildfire prevention that we couldn't get done in the short session. So like, it's a extreme move, but it's not like an unprecedented one to call a special session.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, I feel like there's always special sessions. I mean,
It's true. Is this the real session or the special session or the
There's always a
special session? Yeah.
Yeah, totally. Come on. Well, I mean, that's where we're at. Thanks for helping break down that kind of disappointment, I'll be honest. There was a bit of me that, I'm not a big fan of fees and taxes.
Yeah. But you are a big fan of roads and sidewalks.
I was so happy about roads.
Yeah.
I was so happy about, I just knew we needed this. And, and a lot of these fees and taxes, they were just trying to make as we've been talking about, the gas tax just wasn't cutting it. And so they were just like, how are we going to get money from the electric cars? How are we going to do, and it was just trying to figure that out. And I don't know, man.
Yeah.
It's going to be a bummer.
Yeah. I mean, and I think it's so interesting to see this fail looking back at the past several years of legislative sessions where there's been this sort of like Republican Democratic loggerheads where Republicans are walking out because of things like, climate policy or gun policy. And I think that this is so surprising because like, this is money for everyone. This is money that every county needs. And so I think that's why nobody thought this was going to fail.
Yeah, and that it would be Democrats themselves having to convince each other to pass this bill. Oh, man. All right, well, let's take a quick break here. And when we come back, we're digging into our mailbag. Freelancing or running your own business can feel like freedom and a trap all at once. Grinding day in and day out with no benefits, no savings for retirement, no safety nets, and let's not even talk about what's happening with the tax side of things. That's why Guilds with Benefits was created by freelancers to flip the script, because safety should not mean giving up on your dreams. Guilds with Benefits allows qualified freelancers and small business owners to join their payroll as W-2s while still keeping their independence. Guild members get great medical, dental, and vision insurance, automated tax deductions and compliance, paid time off, 401k with a 3% match, financial security, and so much more. If you're earning over $60,000 a year and are tired of doing it alone, visit guildswithbenefits.com so you can get back to doing the things you love.
CityCast Portland is brought to you by Diamore Law Group. Let's face it, sometimes bad stuff happens. A serious injury, a catastrophic accident, or even a wrongful death. It can turn your world upside down. When it does, you deserve unwavering support from a dedicated team. Yep, you need a lawyer. Diamore Law Group has over 30 years of experience protecting the rights of Oregonians. Their team of skilled attorneys, led by distinguished trial attorney Tom Diamore, will work tirelessly to make sure your voice is heard and your rights are protected. Here's what one of his clients said. Tom fights for his clients from the first day they meet him through the last day of trial. If you or a loved one needs help holding those responsible for your injuries accountable, contact Diamore Law Group at 503-222-6333 or visit diamorelaw.com to schedule a free consultation. They are committed to fighting for the justice and compensation you deserve right here in Portland.
All right, well, let's dig into our mailbag. First off, a couple of people writing in about how much they love our All City Cast host episodes. Those are the ones when we're closing shop for holiday, we tend to get together, all the hosts, and put out these episodes so everyone has an episode. It's kind of it is a cheat. I need you to know that it is like fun and good for, I think, everyone, but it is like a way for all of us to get an episode together and just be like, we're out of here on Friday.
Yeah.
So listener Nick C. wrote in, "Hey, CityCast Portland team, I just want to shout out Claudia's restraint during the June 20th shared episode with CityCast hosts across the country. I kept mumbling out loud to myself while listening how Portland has its own version of everyone's stories that others brought up. Fans wanting owners to sell notable franchise team? Yup. Old racially segregating freeways and expansion plans with lids? Yup. Bike lanes, the removal of them, but also the support of them? Yup. Housing prices and how and where to build much needed housing? Yup. So appreciate the restraint, Claudia. Also, good job wrapping PDX with a bottle redemption story. And I want to say if you can reach out to your higher ups. So this is a plea to our bosses here.
Listen up, David Plotz.
I would love to have more of these shared episodes. It really is fascinating to hear socially focused conversations about issues and topics in major U.S. cities and how we are all actually dealing with the same stuff. And it's healthy for us to look out at this broader picture and maybe reflect like, yeah, we do have it pretty good here. Always listening and always grateful for your team's work. Nick C. up in Overlook. He also corrected me because I said that the dividing line of Northeast and North Portland was MLK, because I need you to know that I firmly, in my bones, thought that. And he just was like, actually, it's North Williams. So
as somebody who lives very close to North Williams now, I have had to sort of rejigger that in my bones as well. Because MLK does feel like the dividing line.
It feels like it.
Yeah.
I love that you know what I'm talking about. It's a feeling.
Yeah.
It's a feeling.
Mm-hmm.
Cross
it's a feeling.
Cross that string, you're like, I'm in North Portland now. I'm no longer in Northeast. Mm-hmm. But thank you for the correction.
Yeah. Well, I have a note about last week's all-host episode where we got all the hosts together and kind of went head-to-head over basically who has the most fun city to visit in the summer. Mm-hmm. And Claudia, this was kind of a heartbreak for us here in Portland because we got knocked out pretty early in this competition. Some would say unfairly. What do you think?
Oh, yeah. I need everyone to know, if you listen to that episode, I was so nervous, not about being part of an all-city cast host episode, but about disappointing Portland.
Yeah, well, this episode's in your feed. Claudia, I thought you performed wonderfully. I thought you represented us very well.
Thank you.
But super listener and frequent commenter Gray J wrote in with a response to your loss. Gray J had a lot to say, so I'm going to be excerpting this message. Starting with your pick for an event that best represents our city, and you chose the Portland World Naked Bike Ride. Here's what Gray J had to say. It's maybe not the first thing I tell curious travelers about, but it is such a quintessential, non-obvious, and perfectly Portland event that people probably haven't heard about already. It's something everyone on the planet should be lucky enough to experience once. And the judge thought the 4th of July in Philadelphia was a better option? I can't think of a more pedestrian reason to visit Philadelphia than to go for the 4th. And I say as someone who absolutely loves Philly. It's an incredible city with cool history, amazing walkability, great nightlife, so much stuff.
All right. Yeah, it's fine.
But hey, let's go for the 4th. No thanks. Sounds like a tourist fest. That's like telling someone that they have to see the Hollywood Walk of Fame, or the Portland equivalent of telling people they must go to Voodoo Donuts. Then he goes on. If people want to hate on the naked bike ride, that's fine. It will only help keep the normies out anyway. You can go visit Mount Rushmore or something. And I will say woven through that is an extraordinary amount of praise for you, Claudia,
Aww.
Which I cut out because I'm shy.
Well, thank you, Gray J. I appreciate it. I want you to know that I did read it and it did make me feel better because I really was like, I can't believe Portland lost Best Summer City. I feel like, honestly, I've lived in a lot of places. You know, in my youths, I've traveled. I'm well-traveled in the United States. I just don't think there's a better place for summer.
Yeah.
Anywhere. I think a Portland summer is perfection. Well, this next one is a continuation. So a thing that happens with these mailbags is sometimes people write in with requests for recommendations. And Here's the focaccia quest that is continuing. To the lovely 7-year-old on your weekly bulletin board that just wants to have good focaccia, here's a tip. Go to the farmer's market and ask for samples from the bakery vendors. You're 7 years old and still cute. A bowl cut might also go a long way here. Pretty soon, you'll be hitting those awkward teen years and basically being a shit. So go ask for handouts while getting is still good.
The best advice we've ever offered on this show.
Yeah, also,
kids, go take advantage of your cuteness.
And also, like, where is it getting this focaccia bread? Where is the good focaccia bread? I hope that the 7-year-old listener, which, by the way, too young to be listening, I hope that they're somewhere right now eating really good focaccia bread. Mm-hmm. And it ended with keep on rocking the podcast streams, Kevin.
I love that. Well, I've got one more, which is a new bulletin board request. This is off the back of an episode we did recently about some of the best vegan food in Portland. Mm-hmm. And this is a great request. I don't have an immediate answer for this. This is from Amelia. As a vegan with a nut allergy, I've only found one vegan restaurant that doesn't use an abundance of nuts, Vertical Diner. Regular restaurants with vegan options tend to be less reliant on nuts, but they're also hard to find. Are you aware of any other vegan restaurants that would be safe? So, Portland audience, vegan restaurants that are friendly for nut allergies. What do you got?
Yeah, and I'll go ahead and just, I'll go ahead and ask our guest. I know they shouted out a few places that were sensitive to nut allergies, but I don't think that we really spent that much time with that. So yeah, we'll dig in for you, and maybe next mailbag we'll have something to share.
Yeah.
Well, you guys, thank you so much for hanging with us. Thank you, everyone, for writing in. It's always a pleasure to hear from you. And John, thank you for hanging out with me.
Yeah, Claudia, thanks.
I'll see you in 2 minutes. Well, that's all for today here on CityCast Portland. Thanks so much for listening. We'll be back tomorrow morning with more from around the city. Until then, see you at Slim's.